Regina Hall, you star in the film Support the Girls as the manager of a sort of Hooters-style restaurant. Now it opened, a little earlier this year, but now it's starting to get some awards attention. But what appealed to you in particular about this film and this role that made you want to take it?
Well, thank you for having me. I just, I read it last, I want to say August. And I don't know, I couldn't stop thinking about it. I don't know if you've ever read something that kind of, resonates with you and it sticks in your brain. And I love indies. And I just loved the subtleties and the characters and the world. I felt like it was a different world. And I felt the way that the director and the writer, Andrew Bujalski, had explored it and the kind of the humanity of a world that people don't often think about, and the sisterhood. So it was kind of interesting that he took like a restaurant, but that was the backdrop to like a solidarity amongst women and a sisterhood. So I don't know. It was kind of all like, it put me in a very thoughtful mood. And so it resonated with me and all the characters, and I remembered that.
And it does deal a lot with the solidarity between these women, especially, your character, Lisa, who's sort of this, in between this kind of horrible male boss and all of the female employees who she's trying to take care of and protect, but also kind of, get into, kind of shape to do this job. What was it like kind of developing those relationships, like especially with like Haley Lou Richardson and Shayna McHale, who are kind of the main contacts for her?
They're so cute. I mean, Haley Lou's infectious, and Shayna's like such a badass. You know what I mean? Like, and it was her first film, so it was. That's the part of your job that's great. They're easy girls to love, and they're all so different, and they all have such just like in the movie, their own unique personalities. But everyone kind of got along and loved each other and liked each other, and we ended up liking spending time together, spending a lot of time at Twin Peaks for food and entertainment. Going there watching like boxing matches or games. But I think they're both. They were big central characters. But all the girls, were just. I found them to be like their personalities. Gelled together, really created, I felt like, the family component. And what was great is they had the youth, and a bit of the naivete that, allowed Lisa to be so protective in that, but then they also had, some wisdom too, you know what I mean? But, they brought such a different energy on the set every single day. And it was great to have that kind of 22 and 23-year-old exuberance, like bouncing around all the time.
And the film takes place mostly over the course of one day. How tight was the shoot? Like, how was it? Was it a very, very quick shoot or very hectic?
It was pretty quick. I will say we were lucky enough to have rehearsals, so we did at least know, like, everything had been prepared, so we weren't like fish out of water. We were able to go and know exactly what we were supposed to do and do it. But we were on a tight schedule. We were on it definitely was. It was kind of like, got to get the shot, but Andrew was so prepared. They knew what they were shooting every day, and he knew the smart way to shoot it, like what needed coverage, and maybe we couldn't cover. On a studio we would have, of course, had our master, and then we would have had our close-ups. But on some of these, we just were like, all right, looks like it's gonna be a wide, and a lot of this, it was hot in Austin. I do remember that, and the car wash scenes were really, really hot. But it was great. It was great.
I can imagine that car wash scene, though. At least, with all the water, were you just kind of like washing cars just to cool off at some point?
I know. Well, Lisa couldn't get wet, but the girls were definitely having fun. We didn't have wardrobe changes. You know what I mean? So we had to stay dry because we didn't have we didn't have a different outfit.
Now, telling the story over the course of this one day, we do learn some of Lisa's backstory, her life outside of this job and this day. But for you as an actress, was there any more that you kind of envisioned of her life to try and to inspire you for this role in this performance?
Yeah. No, I had her first husband or ex-husband, how she met this guy, where she worked before, all her places, where she went to school, favorite colors. I mean, every detail, I think I had done in my mind. And then there were things that Andrew and I talked about together, and then things that the characters and I created together, like my husband and I, like what was going on in our marriage from his point of view, and then from my point of view, and then any like exchanges with the girls that they had seen, which caused them not to tell me why she was dating the professor. Even though she knew she wasn't supposed to be. But kind of like, yeah, a whole thing of her life, where she was the best. One of the things I remember focusing on was the best time in Lisa's life. Like, what was her favorite time in her life? Why?
Since she's put through the ringer over the course of this particular day, was there any scene for her that was, especially, emotionally challenging to shoot, to kind of get into that mind space?
Yeah, I think like dealing with Cubby was probably the hardest stuff, because Cubby, it's her boss, so you still got to be your boss, but you've still got to let him know you're not spineless. And Cubby's tough. One of the things I did love about the scene with him or working with him, was when we were on the car ride. And when I first read it in the script, that the guy just, Cubby's like, I don't know, he comes in, he's kind of grumpy and grouchy. I love James LeGros. But then he gets punched in the stomach by a really regular guy. I mean? And you're just like, okay, and so kind of like that feeling of where you're an unappreciated employee that really is trying, and you're so dismissed for all your efforts. That was a little hard. And also the scene with the husband, like looking at the apartment, knowing that we were splitting up, the awkwardness of saying, it's just for him, and then having that discussion with my husband. Those were the ones I remember being, and you know what, and the scene, where she goes home and Shayna, what look, and discovering like everything's falling apart. There's no husband. Like, this is the day of all the days he decides to leave, and then everything she worked for was kind of, she wasn't appreciated in the one area that she's being appreciated in by the girls. So even though there's nothing catastrophic, but it's kind of, an emotional compass that ends up, being calibrated after that day.
Now, was there anything that was particularly cathartic to shoot, like in terms of, because she has her lows, but she also gets to, she has some moments of triumph.
The Scream was great. Shooting The Scream and drinking at the bar, you know what I mean? Like, anytime I got to be with the girls, that was great. And surprisingly, when I just got to sit outside and be on hold and look at nature, all those things, like they were like little respites of peace, you know what I mean? Just little tiny ones. And you know what I think? When the cable came back on and everything was moving, good, like that's a good day, it's a good day. And the car wash, well, Dylan was hard because she kind of overdid it, She's the marketing major. But I think those, moments where everything seemed to be great and like feeling like she was going to go home and make a difference. It's kind of all of that day's work and that optimism, and, showing the little boy the car, the crazy pants, McCrae. I think all that, all those things gave Lisa a lot of joy.
Now, you mentioned how much you appreciate independent film, and you in particular were nominated at the Gotham Awards and the Spirit Awards, which are, of course, all about independent film. How important is that for, are you excited for that, for the visibility of the film and just for the importance of independent film in general?
Oh my goodness, yeah. I mean, I love independent storytelling. You know what I mean? I love that characters are allowed to, there's a stillness, and there's a pacing that's not always allowed in, big studio movies where people are coming to see like action and, the first act and the issue and the second act and resolution, you know what I mean? So I love indies and like the work that you get to do. And it's really for the love of it. You know what I mean? Obviously there's not a lot of money but you read something and it's so special and a director's vision is really allowed to come through. It's not kind of interrupted by, studio needs, and there's nothing wrong with that. They're just two completely different things. And so to be able to be a part of the independent film world is already wonderful. You know what I mean? Like no matter what a film does, it's incredible because you're a part of making art. But then to be nominated, you know what I mean, and get recognized, by the Gotham Awards and then the Independent Film, the Independent Spirit Awards. That's like the cherry on like a really good sweet baby Jane cake. You know what I mean? It's already great, but then it's like we're gonna sprinkle a little bit of something on top. So, and it is because there's so many great films, and I hear about indies all the time, and I hear about them from other people, in the indie circuit, and I'm like, I have to see it because there's so many great ones that that you don't get to see if there's not some sort of continued interest for there to be like word of mouth to say, oh, you know what, I keep hearing about that. Let me watch it. So hopefully, the film does have, the audience does get to expand, because of it.
And, the critics have also been very supportive of the film. And you won Best Actress also at the New York Film Critics Circle Awards, which was also historic. The first African-American actress to win that award from the New York Film Critics. What was that? What was the critical reception in general like? And finding out that you won that award particularly?
I will say from the beginning, the critics have been just so supportive of the movie and have, really just said and done such amazing reviews. And that was already incredible coming, just coming out of South by Southwest to just have that kind of reception. And then I think I know that is the only reason that, we continue to have a shelf life. We're such a small movie. We came out in August, and it's really been the critics' support that has just, I think, continued and then allowed us to, be a part of this and that, and the word of mouth continues to get out. So the New York, I was so surprised. I'm still surprised. I was like, oh my goodness. And then I didn't even know that there hadn't been a Black woman to ever win in that category before. So I was like, through the moon. I thought it was a joke at first. I was like, who's playing on my phone? I was like, there's no time for this. And, there's no time. So then when I found out, I was like, what? It was kind of great. My mom was really excited.
Yeah, that's a very specific joke to try and play on someone if that had been a joke.
It would have been cruel. I have to tell you, it would have been cruel. But I do remember I woke up and I had so many texts because my phone was on silent, but I was, it was the East, it was everyone from the East Coast. And so it was kind of surreal, I have to be honest. But I had to work that day. I was at work and I was like, and then they were like, Regina! And I was like, I can't believe it. So no, it's huge. It's like, I can't, they say being nominated is great, but I got to tell you, the winning feeling's fucking amazing. It's great.
Yeah, absolutely. And you also have another film that came out this fall too, The Hate U Give, which interestingly, I think what's similar about them is that these women you play are both in very different ways, all about family. What prompted you, when did you get the script for Hate U Give and made you want to, play that role, and what excited you about that one?
George had told me about the Hate U Give book, and about 2 years ago, and he said, there's a role in there, and I think, you'd be great. And it kind of, you hear stuff like that all the time, and then 2 years later, you see someone else in the part, and you're like, "Is that the role that they were talking about?" So I wasn't really sure about it, but then it came up, and then George sent me the script, and I had read the book. George had sent the book, George Tillman Jr., and I loved the book. You know what I mean? I was like, "Oh wow!" And I read the script, and I thought they had done such an incredible adaptation. And I knew Amanda was attached, and he was trying to really. And I thought if it worked, it could be something really powerful. So for me, I just wanted to be a part of it, to be able to support the film, the book, Amanda, George. Like, it was just, kind of a no-brainer. And then, Russell was doing it. And I thought, they had a really interesting cast. And, George was very passionate. And, I could see that, knowing that he was going to bring that to the film and to the filmmaking, and to what, to the actors, to make sure that we were, doing great. And so I was just, I was really kind of happy to be able to do that one. I mean, I'm happy to do all of them, but that one was a special one. I guess every movie is like a child. They're all special.
And this film in particular, I was struck by how much it packs into, this story of it's not just about police brutality. It's also about code switching. It's also about, there's a scene of militarized police there, protests, and there's so many ideas in this film. What did you think about, and geared towards sort of a young adult audience, although I think still quite accessible to adults too. What was it like being part of that kind of communication to kind of another generation of audiences?
Yeah, that was really interesting too. You know what I mean? Looking at the what I loved about it was there were so many aspects to this girl's life. You know what I mean? It was the family aspect. It was the school aspect. It was the neighborhood aspect. It was her relationship with her boyfriend at school, but then her relationship with Khalil, who died. And so she kind of had all these different variables in her life. And so, and I was not familiar with the book before then, but it became like a #1, YA adult. And I'm so like removed. But what I also really loved that George did was like, but I want to make something that everyone can, get something out of or respond to. And I really did love that. And, although I'm way past being in school, you know what I mean? I love the way that they just, tacitly brought up those issues, and through kind of like a young girl's eyes. And it's interesting that we're seeing, kind of what, like you said, militarized police, and, and even to see privilege through her eyes, to see, drug dealing and gang violence and what she felt like. And it's kind of that idea of where do I belong? And I think that happens a lot to young teens. It was interesting to watch, and also totally different for me because they're just some things, I mean, obviously we've all had to deal with, and that's code switching. Obviously, I know that a lot. But I think also just being in today's era, this new kind of, what is it? What are they? Generation Y? Is that what it's called?
I lose track of the letters. I'm like early millennial, and there's it might be Y or Z at this point.
Yeah. But honestly, being able to see, where, how things resonate with them, and how they feel about things. And it's kind of amazing because it's great, knowing Amanda in real life, they're an empowered and informed generation. And so, it's all of it. It's kind of, for me to have been that age and then to be this age, but watch that age from this age. So it's kind of very, it was a very special movie and a very special process to shoot.
Congratulate you on again on the all the success for Support the Girls and the Hate You Give this fall. And thank you so much for talking with me today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, and thanks for the kind words and all the support.